Edie, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Lyle.
Okay. I'm going to mute everyone until the meeting. Edie, can you hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Edie, can you hear me? City recorder. Okay. Perfect. I'm going to suggest that those of you that are on here in the waiting room, we're going to turn our video on. It makes it easier for the chairman and myself and the city recorder. So when it comes that time, if you would turn the camera on. Thank you. Hello, Pete. I'm going to keep everybody muted until the meeting.
Holding everybody's.
Hey, Pete,
Wow.
I can hear you.
Okay. Hey, I have a question. That house on Linwood, I went over there and looked at it. Did that detached garage and breezeway go through the board, or was that just a decision you made to approve that?
It was a decision I made to approve it since
Okay.
the living space above.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I was just confused by it. Because I thought it had to be an integral part of the house.
Well, it is. In that it's got office space above and it's connected to the house. If it had been just a breezeway, we'd have a different conversation. It's just like the one on Linwood 404, I believe. Same design, right down the street.
Right. Okay.
All right, I'm going to put you
Okay.
on
Yeah,
mute.
the one that just sold recently.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Hey, Pete. I can't hear you.
I have everyone muted until the meeting.
Oh, okay.
We'll give it just a few more minutes and then we'll start the meeting. Mamie, how do you hold that pose for so long?
How we doing?
Good.
In
Good.
all of my videos, I've got a Jack Daniels poster behind me, so I
Oh,
try
okay.
to keep it.
Well, you got your priorities straight, right?
That's right. That's right.
We're gonna give it 1 minute and then we'll start. I'm gonna put everybody back on mute.
All right.
Okay, the phone number ending in 1819, would you please identify yourself? 385-1819, please identify yourself. All right, I've got the board members' mics on. Mr. Chairman, are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm gonna read this preamble and then turn it over to you. All board members and members of the public have been provided electronic meeting details and materials related to items of business due to the coronavirus. Upon entering the meeting, all participants except the board staff will be muted. The chairman will call the meeting to order and the building official will read the meeting procedures. After the meeting procedures are read, the chairman will conduct a roll call to establish a quorum and document members of the board in attendance. The building official will then proceed with items of business on the agenda. The chairman will ask for public comments at the appropriate time. At that time, all meeting participants will be unmuted to provide comment. To provide comment, please state your full name and address. The chairman will then recognize you by name. Please be respectful of all meeting participants by being silent while others are speaking. After a motion is made, the chairman will conduct a roll call vote to document votes of the board members. Please be mindful of background noise and mute yourself if necessary. Mr. Chairman, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Lyle. I want to welcome everybody to the April 21st, 2020 meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals. And first, let me say, I hope everybody's safe and healthy and hope you continue to be that way. It's our first ever meeting conducted electronically. I want to state that for the record. We have board members here, and when I call your name, first let me acknowledge our legal counsel, Doug Berry, and our city recorder, Eddie Glazer. Is Jim Hunt here?
I do not see the mayor.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Doug.
Good afternoon.
Let me first ask the members of the board that are here to identify themselves. First, Gloria Sternberg.
That's me. You're
Okay. Haley Dale. Is Haley here?
She is.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I'm muting trouble.
Gloria, I love your background. That's
Oh.
awesome. What is that?
It's just so you don't see my messy office.
Oh my gosh. It looks
Yeah,
like
you can put any background on your.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's great. That looks like you're
So,
floating in space.
so I didn't think anybody'd want to see the room that hasn't been cleaned up yet.
We also have Pete Zabasky, our vice chairman. Pete, will you identify yourself, please, for the record?
Yeah, mine reads Laura. That's my wife, but my name's Pete.
I knew that Laura was not here, so well, good. Well, thank you everybody for being here. This will be interesting, and I want to give my special thanks to our techie building inspector, Lyle Patterson, for putting all this together. Very, very sophisticated piece of work here. First of all, there are 3 applications on the agenda this evening, and each applicant is here because a request for a building permit has been denied and they are here to appeal. It's responsibility of this board to hear your appeal and determine if there's a compelling reason that would allow the board to grant your request while at the same time protecting the intent and integrity of the city ordinances. The board can hear only what's been published in your appeal. Other items that come up that are not included in the public notice cannot be heard this time. If the board grants an approval, it will be specific to your request. Our procedures for the evening will be as follows. Our assistant city manager and city building inspector, Lyle Patterson, will introduce each item. The applicant or representative may present the appeal. When doing so, especially now, since we're not live, to introduce yourself for the record. There'll be time for the board to ask questions and solicit any comments. Each time, board members, you do that, please identify yourself. I'll close the discussion off from the public, and board members will deliberate in open forum. We may ask you each individual questions. A board member will then file a motion. It'll have to be seconded to pass, and then it'll have to be voted upon, require a majority to be granted. The decisions of the board, if granted, will ask you to remove your yard sign and pull a permit within a year. If denied, we ask you to remove your yard sign. If deferred, we ask you to keep your yard sign up. We've each of the board members have reviewed the materials you submitted. Now I'll ask the board if there's any conflicts.
No.
Can you each identify? Gloria?
No.
Haley?
No.
No.
Thank you. Now I notice we have a quorum. So Mr. Patterson, I think we're ready to proceed. If you'll call the first item, please.
First item under old business, the application of Colin Barker, 4401 Georgian Place, for a variance permitting the construction of a swimming pool outside the building envelope. Swimming pool requires BZA approval. I'm going to unmic. Who's representing Mamie's issue?
It is not.
Is it Gavin or Ed?
I believe so, yes.
Hey, I'm here, Lyle.
Okay.
Sorry, I was having problems getting through on my cell phone, so we're on the office computer now.
Okay.
I'm not Ed. Gavin Duke, landscape architect. Last time we met, I guess we were over at the church, and we submitted it, and our setbacks were such that we really didn't have quite a building envelope. And so we presented the pool, which was on BZA -3 sheet. And as you can see, it was fairly close to the back door, and a couple of board members had mentioned maybe moving it out so it wasn't quite as a hazard for the residents. And so we moved it slightly. It's a 14 by 30 pool. And as you can see on BZA 2, there was actually, the neighbor was there last time. They may be speaking today, but we did meet with them, and the pool that's adjacently behind them is about 25 feet off of the property line. And we're significantly further away, but our lot is such that the hardship, I think, is that we have space on both sides of the lot, but we really don't have that much of a rear yard. And so we were asking to get a pool in the rear. All of our numbers and all of our ratios are within the allowable. And our fencing we have going off of the rear of the house. We tried to make the best for a small space that we could.
Thank you, Gavin. Does anybody else want to speak on your behalf or the owner's behalf?
I'm not sure today. I know Emily may be on here and Colin, but not sure if they have anything to say.
All mics are open for public comment.
No, this is
Mr. Chairman, Haley, I've got a question.
Okay. Haley Dale, go right ahead.
I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Same.
We're getting some feedback.
So you mute everybody except for whoever's.
Does anyone have their phone and computer on? That'll give you a lot of feedback.
Yeah, it's off the line.
All right, I think that's better.
Okay. Well, I don't think it isn't for me, but I really just wondered if there is any change other than this being filed with variance this time.
I think that was the stipulation, Lyle, that we had at the last meeting, that it was maybe on the sign it said something different than what was presented.
Yes, it
Yeah,
said.
I was just making sure there wasn't any additional changes.
No, we had no additional changes. We did move the pool slightly, maybe 2 feet further out, because it was brought up in the meeting that it was only 3 feet from that rear terrace, so we did move it out.
Thank you.
This is Joe Dugman. Gavin, the pool is still with outside the building envelope. Is that correct?
It's a little further out. Last time we had about 2/3 that was out, and it's maybe it may be just a little bit further out. We shifted it about 2 or 3 more feet to the west.
Lyle, can you show us the building envelope on any of these documents?
Yeah, it's right there.
It's right there.
I'll do my best to outline it here. So this would be the rear setback here. This is the 70.
Okay.
And the front setback follows the curvature of the street that you see here. That is the building envelope.
Are there any more comments or questions, or I should say comments from Gavin Duke or his client from any of the board members? Any questions of them, Gavin?
I have a question, Doug.
Okay, this is Pete
There you
Savasky.
go. Yeah. Is there a wall around that terrace?
It is 3 feet elevated to be on level with the sort of that rear covered porch, and it has it's 30 inches. I'm sorry, and we have a railing that goes around it, but there is no wall.
Okay, so but it's the barrier is 6 feet tall.
Yeah, we have there's a 3-foot wall on the south side, and it has a 3-foot railing on top of it. So that meets the 6 foot, and then there's a 6-foot fence that goes to the property line. And,
Okay,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
yeah, and Lyle, let me ask you, that doesn't need board approval?
Not on a corner lot. The only thing I'm concerned about, which if you look at it, is a foothold or a toe hold from the 30-inch wall to the handrail.
Right,
It's got to be flush where someone can't climb over.
right.
And we can do that. We can make that flush. And you'll see in the planting plan, which is on BZA 5, that after we spoke to the neighbor, we had evergreen screens on the sort of the west side, which is the rear of the lot, and also along, I believe that's Herbert Place over there. So most of that is evergreen planting that will sort of screen that from traffic and also for the neighbor in the back, and also to the north.
Let me ask Edie. Edie, are you getting down the people that are talking? Do you know? Because every time they talk, they're not identifying themselves, but the voice is the same. So
She does not have a microphone, so I'm going to ask they would just say their name. I'm actually recording the whole Zoom meeting for reference for her later.
okay,
I have another question.
Pete Savasky.
Yes, Gavin, is there a gate there near the steps or going that locks in that closes off that gate? Do you have a locking closed off that fence? Do you have a locking gate there?
Yes, it'll have a
There.
self-latching locking gate, as you'll see near the north border of that, and also to the south off of that area.
Okay, and the other thing's the pool equipment. It looks like it's right next to the air conditioning equipment. Is that right?
It's the only thing in the building envelope.
I showed 3 boxes there. All 3 of those boxes pool equipment.
That would be pool equipment, correct?
And is that just setting on a pad or is it enclosed?
It would be fenced with a screening element.
Okay.
Are there any more questions of Gavin Duke? If not, I'm going to
Yes.
quote. Sorry.
Yes, this is Gloria Sternberg. I mean, I wasn't at the last meeting, so I'm not sure what questions were answered in terms of it being outside the building envelope. And I realize that it's a unusual lot, but I'm not sure that we've approved pool outside the building envelope in a long time.
Yes, we had it further, we pushed it further in toward the house, and it seemed to be a hazard. Maybe they felt it was a tripping hazard from going, you know, out of that covered porch area. And I think our case was the fact that we have an adjacent touching lot actually is a lot that has a pool that's in further violation, which is 25 feet from the property line. So we were really hoping that we could get a small entertaining element like a pool, because we don't have any place else to put it on this property.
When was the previous, this is Gloria again, when was the previous pool built?
Lyle, I think, was looking that up last time we met.
It was,
Now, Gloria, when you say previous pool, what are you referring to?
Oh, the neighbor's pool.
Neighbor's pool.
I mean,
Thank
that's
you.
probably
Yeah.
a long time ago.
It should be in the minutes of the last meeting that was discussed. This is Colin Barker, owner.
Are you looking that up, Lyle? Is that what you're doing? Or is that what we're waiting on?
I believe it was in the 90s. Look, going through the minutes now.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Just take your time. I want to make sure that's what you're doing. Well, if there's not any more questions of Gavin Duke or anybody else of his representing, why don't we close that portion and the board can discuss when it was built and other matters too among ourselves.
It is not in the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay. All right. Let's close this section of the meeting and let's board members talk among ourselves. And if you want to, Gloria, if you want to get more historical information from somebody who may remember if and when it was ever done, then you may ask or whatever.
I can probably help respond to Gloria because I was at the last meeting, and it was at that point determined this should come back as a variance because we never, as far as I know, we've never approved a pool as a conditional use outside of the setbacks, but this board has authority to approve a pool outside the setbacks on a variance. But not outside of a variance. So at that time, we instructed Gavin to consider coming back as a variance. And we also suggested that since he will be back as variance, to make the pool fit the house better and not try to jam it up against the back of the building just to get it close to being in the building envelope.
I have pulled up the original building permit.
94. A long time ago.
And the best I remember at that meeting, the neighbor who has the pool presented at that meeting and didn't have a problem with it as long as there was proper screening.
Mr. Chairman, if I may interrupt, this is Ted Maiden. I am the neighbor immediately to the left, I should say to the west of the Barkers. And by the way, Barbara and I look forward to the Barkers being our neighbors and our friends. My wife, Barbara, was the one who spoke to the board. And just to clarify a point you made a moment ago, we do not have a pool. It is the Nallies who live behind us on Georgian Place who have the pool. And just to clarify a historical matter, that pool has been back there for a long, long while. Is the floor open for public comment, or is the procedure that the Barkers and their professional guides have the floor?
Well, I asked for anybody to make any comments, and I did close it. However, I don't have a problem if the rest of the board didn't have a problem with this gentleman speaking. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
my apologies. I had to fumble with getting unmuted, so that's on me. I finally figured it out. I did have an opportunity to send mine and Barbara's thoughts on the matter to Mr. Patterson. If those are already in the record, there's no need that I see to take the board's time and the time of others who are attending the meeting.
Lyle, do you have his comments that he's referring to?
Let me just put this up.
I'm happy to summarize them if the board, the chair sees fit.
Go right ahead. Just summarize them, please.
Sure. Well, quite candidly, our concerns are not those that are immediately before the board. As far as Barbara and I are concerned, that's a decision for the appropriate body to make. But the circumstances are such that the area of our home most proximate to the proposed pool is our master bedroom and bath. While it is true that the other pool we spoke of may be closer or further, that other pool faces the back of the house, and it has a stucco or somewhat substantial wall of about 6 or 7 feet. So we never suffer a disturbance from any activity emanating from the pool equipment, or related activity. So, the proximity of our master bedroom does raise some concerns that Barbara shared with the board and perhaps with the Barkers as well, about noise and screening and bright lighting. That in the event there are any disturbances, those will be borne most acutely by Barbara and myself when we're utilizing the master bedroom and bath. And I'm not embarrassed to tell the board that as we age, we spend more time sleeping and in the bath. In any event, our concern is entirely assurance that the potential for these disruptions will be minimized to the fullest extent practicable. Additionally, we have an engineering concern, which is something that I am way out over my skis on, and will defer to the experts present in the meeting. that if there is any regrading or other engineering, earth moving, or the like, that does occur in the process of constructing any pool, that we would ask for assurance that it will not create or exacerbate any water conditions on our property. Flooding, proximity to our septic, which is very close to the property line, and obviously, we're confident that the pool will be designed to fail safe if it was structurally impaired. But as I mentioned earlier, we're happy to let the chips fall where they may. Our concern, there are particular circumstances, and that is the proximity of our master bedroom to the pool.
Thank you, Mr. Baden. Now, let's go back to the meeting of the board members. Now, Pete gave us some refresher on the last time this came up. As I understand it, though, it is not before this board as a variance request. Is that correct, Gavin?
No, it is before the board.
It is, yes.
It is.
And just to add to that, I think
it didn't say it on the agenda. That's the reason I'm confused about.
Oh, it is. It
Oh,
is
you're
on the
right.
agenda.
Yes, I'm sorry. It does say that. My bad.
Didn't say it on the sign, though.
Yeah.
And just for the record, the civil engineering and the stormwater study is required for a pool. So we will have full drainage.
Anybody speaking, I can't hear him.
This is Gavin speaking, right?
Yeah, Gavin Duke. Just reiterating the fact that stormwater and drainage would be a part of all this study with the pool. So it would be no more water for that back area.
Anybody else on the board want to make a comment or question?
Can you pull up the landscaping plans, Kyle? Joe, could we ask Gavin to talk to us again, open it up and let him talk to us again about the buffer that he's trying to create there?
Yes.
Directly behind him.
Go right ahead, Gavin. Will you address that?
Gavin Duke, yes. We plan on that there would be arborvitae, the Nellie R. Stevens hollies, things that would get in the 12 to 14 foot range, and staggered planted, so there would be a dense planting there, and we'd be glad to put that in the just whatever stipulation that we'd have to sign to put the junipers, hollies, and arborvitaes. And we also wrapped that area to get along Herbert Place so that there was adequate screening for the pool.
The other question that came to mind is if that wall and wrought iron fence around the pool, if that were a solid wall, wouldn't that have those noise deadening bricks or blocks in it? Would that be something to really eliminate noise coming out of that back? I'm not an engineer, so I'm just more curious whether that might be a consideration. Now, if you say yes, that would probably have to come back for the board because we didn't approve a 6 foot wall around the pool.
I'm afraid you might get a little bit of echo chamber with that bouncing off of that wall and the inside of the covered porch. Be glad to consider second layer planting along that wall if we could get another buffer planting, maybe single trunk, evergreens that could be along that west back wall where those Chase Lounge chairs are. We already have some there, but yeah.
Just to say something about our neighbors
Who is
behind us.
speaking? Can you identify yourself, please?
I'm sorry, Emily Barker, we're the homeowners. We're happy to do whatever it takes in order to do the screening in terms of vegetation or a brick wall. But I do believe, I think it's Barbara, didn't want a brick wall because the house behind them, that was what frustrated her about the people that did the pool behind her directly, which is directly north to her. It was an ugly brick wall. We're happy to do anything, but I think if we're talking about walls, we ought to make sure. Again, we want as much green and evergreen and thick, but we're happy to do a wall. I just don't think she wanted us to do a brick wall.
Mr. Chairman, this is Lyle. May I make a comment, please?
Please, yes.
I recall that in the minutes that that's true. They did not care for a solid wall.
Well, this is Ted Maiden. May I have the floor, Mr. Chairman?
Go right ahead.
Yes. I was not at that meeting. Barbara's lack of interest in a brick wall, certainly understandable. We had to make considerable expenditure in landscaping to disguise the wall when we moved in. We were not here when it was constructed. I would, I think, to me, it's a matter of indifference, but I think everyone on this call is indicating an interest in making sure that the pool is not disruptive to us. And whether that's done with a solid structure or a natural structure, is a matter of indifference to us. I don't think we necessarily want to rule out a solid wall if the solid wall could be camouflaged somehow, as we've had to do it at our own expense with respect to the pool behind us. But I do not believe that option should be taken off the table. On the other hand, we're not insisting on it. I'm not even sure we have standing to insist on it, but I do think we do have standing to ask for assurance that our master bedroom will not be subject to the kind of completely understandable disruption that comes from having a swimming pool, which is a place where people want to enjoy themselves and children want to enjoy themselves, and we're all for that. But our concern remains singular, and that is that we have the benefit of the free enjoyment of our home, and as well as our new neighbors, the Barkers.
Okay, I think we understand your position. Any other board members want to comment among themselves? And I think for sure I'm going to cut off the public comment at this point.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Joe, thank you. Under the ordinance, conditional use is one of the standards is that the board has to find that approval of a conditional use will not interfere substantially with the use and enjoyment of an adjacent property by its owners and occupants. Also that, we can agree on provisions for vegetative screening to protect, it says, the character of the community, which I guess is not an issue, but I don't know that I'm there yet with the concern of the neighbor, even though I know, and he's right, neighbors don't really have the authority to dictate what we do, but we certainly want to make sure that there's harmony with the neighbors. I don't know that there's a plan in place right now that would ensure that that the neighbor's property wouldn't be adversely affected by the pool going in. I just would like to know that there's something else that can be done, if not determined in this meeting, then another meeting to make sure that we're not going to cause a nuisance for the neighbor.
Lyle, this is Joe Dugman. The variance requirement is that it has to be an extraordinarily unusual shape, size, or topographic feature as compared to other properties in the immediate neighborhood. Can we see the other properties again?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, Haley Dale, just a matter of order, or have we closed the public portion or no?
Yes, we're closed for sure now.
Thank you.
It's been closed and reopened and closed and reopened, but it's closed.
Okay, thank you.
Lyle, can you show us the that slide of the neighboring properties? Yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, Haley Dale again, if it's all right while Lyle's doing that, I just wanted to give my thoughts on this. I've been thinking about it since our last meeting. And for me, this is just the worst case scenario. For me, this is 100% like the worst shaped lot. They definitely, in my opinion, have cause for a variance based to irregularity of their lot size. But that then making the swimming pool be outside the building envelope, it's just that we keep coming back to that. And for me, I just am going to defer to the will of this board because you all have seen so many more cases than I have on this. I mean, I just wanted to share my thoughts on that. I mean, just keep going around and around. I mean, it's a huge lot. And to not be able to have a swimming pool just seems just bizarre. But at the same time, I mean, it is what it is. For me, as far as irregularity goes, of all the cases I have seen since I've been on the board, which is a hot minute. I mean, it's only been, 6 months. But for me, this definitely would qualify. It's just, so anyway, I just wanted to share my thoughts.
Well, I wanted to see the other properties. The variance requirement compares it to the other properties in the immediate neighborhood, and this board doesn't necessarily have to make a finding to that effect, but if we say that it is a variance, where I think implicitly we're saying that it's an unusual shape compared to the other properties. So
I have a question, Mr.
Gloria?
Chairman. Gloria. It's Gloria. Did they look at another location for the pool?
Well,
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how it would work on the other side of the house.
They did. We asked that last.
Okay, I wasn't there last time, so
Yeah.
I was just wondering. It just seems like.
Haley, please identify yourself.
Sorry, this is Haley Dale and Gloria. I remember I asked the same question last time, and my recollection was that not only did they look at that, and also the neighbor was not fond of that option either. So I think it was not a more pleasant option. Is my recollection.
Which neighbor, I wonder? Because it would same neighbor, because it would infringe. It looks like, I mean, it would still be outside the building envelope, but if you pulled it to the right side of the house, it would.
We may have to open it back up so that Gavin can explain it to us, but I do remember them talking at least about that option of it going to the right side instead of the left. I don't remember exactly because we've been 60 days here and I'm homeschooling 3 kids and I'm sort of starting to lose my mind.
Well, Joe Dugman again. We have to decide based upon what we have before us. And if there's, Gloria, if you want to consider a motion to defer, you can do that. Haley, likewise, you have to vote your conscience based upon what we have before us. So.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Joe, this is Pete.
Yeah.
Before Haley does that, I might make a suggestion that, and we've done something similar to this, and since I think the neighbor's name was Ted Madden. The Maddens and the Barkers have had some dialogue or conversation about this, and it seems they both want to make something that makes sense work. That we ask that we could approve it contingent on the Maddens agreeing that the landscaping is adequate to stifle the noise. And as long as they agree, then Plow could issue the building permit. But if they don't agree, then it would have to come back before the board, and the board would have to revisit the issue. That's just something we did in the past. We did it over there on Jackson Boulevard at Truxton Place. And that worked out fine. The neighbors were happy, and I assume they're still happy.
But I think it was Gloria. I think it was more of a setback from the previous house, from the next door neighbor. I can't remember the exact.
It was a wall. It was a wall they were putting up.
It was a wall, but it was, yeah. But
they were afraid it was going to block the view of people coming from Jackson on Truxton. They wouldn't be able to see down Truxton to Jackson.
I know, but that could be done on the other side of this house.
Well,
throwing that up to the chairman.
I don't know. I think Haley's memory is that it was considered, and it didn't come back any different than it was last time, except the pool was moved out, as I understand the comments. But so let's go on ahead. And is there a motion before this board to?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I do think it would be best.
Doug Berry speaking.
Can you all hear me? Okay.
Can you identify yourself next time?
I'm Doug Berry, City Attorney. I just wanted to say I thought it would be best to go ahead and consider first whether the applicant has met the standards of a variance and rule on that, and then apply your conditional use criteria to the pool.
Thank you, Doug. That helps me a lot.
Yes,
Haley Dale, thank you.
The variance has very specific criteria, which we've alluded to. The unusual shape, size, or topographic feature, and the board needs to determine that variance may be granted without detriment to the public good, that it does not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the ordinance, and that the resulting home, it says, but I guess it would say that resulting construction would not be out of harm of the homes in the neighborhood. So I don't think you have to recite those verbatim, but I do think you should go ahead and variance first, and then you're free to consider the conditions on the pool itself. That'd be my advice.
Well, Joe Duggan again, if there is a motion to approve, then my recommendation is that the motion include the requirements of the variance be met. If there is a motion.
Typically a variance is a special, well, as long as the board knows what the board is doing, I suppose that's fine. The record is clear. I had seen it as better as two motions, since the conditional use and the variance are not usually interrelated. They're not mutually exclusive, but this is, as Pete, I think, pointed out last meeting, it's pretty unusual that we see this come up with the swimming pool within the setback requirement. So I'll defer to you all as to how you want to handle your business. But
well, I think, yeah, first there has to, if there is a motion to approve, then I think you should, there may not be a motion to approve.
So, Mr. Chairman, Haley Dale, I understand what Doug is saying, and for me personally, I would love to make a motion to approve that this property qualifies for a variance under the guidelines that Doug just outlined. And then I think we can go from there on the rest. Is that what you're saying, Doug? That's how I'm understanding.
That's Doug's recommendation.
The one reason I would give that advice too is that there seems like there's been discussion about maybe putting conditions on the conditional use that depend on, future conduct and agreement by the parties. And
I
that's
agree.
Yet another complicating factor. That's how I would handle it. I just think it's cleaner to isolate the variance and then do the conditional use criteria. So it's up to you. Of course, the chair can entertain whatever motion it wants. That the motion to approve the variance would be a proper motion, if you don't mind my saying so. So I guess it's up to you all as to how you want to divide the question or combine the question. It's up to you.
So Gloria, I have a question. If you approve the variance, then you're still not locked into a vote on the pool, right?
That's
That's
correct.
correct.
That's correct. The only thing you're doing with the variance is saying you could build it in this circumstance outside of the building setback because of the unusual shape of the lot. And then you're back to as if you were at a clean slate to consider the conditional use.
Okay.
Yeah, let me, this is Pete Savasky. If we don't agree that it's a variance, then we can't approve the pool.
Exactly.
So it's over. If you can't approve a pool outside the building envelope unless the lot qualifies the variance. So I think that's why
That's
Doug
correct.
thinks it's important
That is
to
correct.
approve the variance first. And
Well,
I'm
we
okay
have
with
a-
making a motion.
We have a
Yeah,
motion
about the
on the
negative
floor. This is Joe again. Motion on the floor. Is there any other comment or question about the motion on the floor? Any more discussion about it?
Is there a second?
If not, is there a second for the motion?
I'll second it. This is
Okay.
Pete Savasky. I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? First, let me ask, I guess, a roll call vote. Haley, in favor or not?
Aye.
You made the motion. I would assume you.
Yes,
You're-
sir. I did.
Gloria?
You don't assume that the person making the motion will vote for their motion though. So that's
That's
good.
right.
I could have tricked you, Mr. Chairman, but I did not.
Okay.
That's good, Haley.
Gloria?
Aye.
Pete?
Aye.
And aye for me. Joe, I'm in favor of the motion as well. So the motion is approved by unanimous. Now, the next question is there another motion to approve the pool with certain conditional requirements, if any? Or is there a motion to disapprove it?
Haley Dale, Doug, I've got one question about that. Are we able to make conditional approvals on conditional use?
Our legal counsel left the room. He's
I got kicked off a second ago and came right back. He may come right back in.
here. He is.
There he is.
I'm
Hey,
sorry,
Doug.
folks. I
It's okay,
apologize.
Doug.
I had to go get my water. Good glass of water. Sorry.
Haley Dale, just a quick question. Do we have the authority to make conditional approvals on a conditional use?
That's what it's for. Yes.
Oh,
Typically,
okay.
they're having to do with landscaping, buffering. The things you've been discussing are the typical things you would consider on a pool.
Understood.
That's why it's called a conditional.
Okay.
I wouldn't get too
Yes.
far afield of things that are in the ordinance though, unless the parties agree to it or something.
Is there a motion one way or another on this
Mr.
pool?
Mr. Chairman, Haley Dale, I'll make a motion to approve the pool with the condition that all efforts are made to make an appropriate buffer and to keep the noise and disturbance down to the neighbors.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Pete Zavasky, second. All in favor? So do a roll call vote again. Haley, you made a motion. Do you want to prove your own motion?
Mr. Chairman, I vote aye.
And Gloria,
I'm going to have to vote no. I'm sorry.
you don't have to be sorry. It's your will or your choice. Pete?
I vote aye.
Well, I guess it comes down to me. I'll vote aye as well. So the motion to approve the pool with conditions of proper buffer has been passed. Where are we here?
Chairman, is the line open? Mr. Chairman, is the line open?
No, who is this?
This is Ted Maiden.
Well, we're finished with the public comment, Mr. Maiden.
I have no further comments.
I'm not sure what you're saying or doing, but
I'm sorry, I muted him. It's over. I'm moving on to the next one. New business.
Thank you all.
The application of Don Cochran, 414 Ellendale Avenue, for a conditional use permitting construction of a swimming pool and pool cabana, a special exception for a wall in front and around pool, and footprint over front setback. Appendix F, non-conforming accessory structure is more than 50% of the as-built cost of construction. The building permit has been denied for the following reasons. Swimming pool requires BZA approval. Pool cabana requires BZA approval. Wall in front is over allowed height. Wall at pool is over allowed height. Structure's footprint is over allowed front setback. Non-conforming accessory structure garage is more than 50% of as-built cost of construction. Mr. Chairman, I will say I talked to the representative today, Mr. Ed Tessier, and I believe the Appendix F, non-conforming accessory structure, will be tabled. I'll let him address that, and we'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Lyle. This is Ed Tester with Page Duke Landscape Architects. I'm here with Ben Page as well. As Lyle has stated, we do want to kind of table the talk about the existing garage structure for now and just focus on the main structure of the house. And so, Lyle, if you can go ahead and pull up the site plan. Thank you very much. So one of the things that we're here before you to discuss is encroaching on the front setback, which is with the new building zoning code set at 102 feet from the property line. As you can see on this drawing, the outline in green is the existing structure that sits on the house as it is today. So when that house was built, the existing house was 74 feet from the front setback. And so when we did the calculations, 412 Ellendale is 86 feet from the front property line. 404 Ellendale is 75 feet from the front property line. And then 416, which is Dr. Eskin's house, is 130 feet from the front property line. And so what we're asking to do is to encroach on the front setback by 8 feet so that our new proposed setback would be 94 feet from the front property line. We're basically pulling the house, the old house is 27 feet inside the new setback, and we are now going to be 19 feet behind where the old house used to sit. Part of the other thing that we're going to be discussing with you today as well is replicating like an old brick arch detail that is part of kind of the old house. If you could scroll down to BZA number 6, please. Ben, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I'm Ben, this is Ben Page, landscape architect, and been asked to be part of the team for the new house on this site. One of the beautiful aspects of the existing landscape imagery on this property is this existing gate and overthrow in the back. And the zoning committee asked us to replicate that detail, which we're thrilled to do because it's a pretty unique detail that, as far as I know, I don't know of another detail like this in Belmead. So integral to the design of the security around the pool, we incorporated this detail, which is, as you can see on the right side, that's the existing detail. And it is slightly above all your existing zoning requirements. It starts out at 7 feet on the side and peaks out at 9 feet in the middle. So that the beautiful detail of that jack arch is 9 feet. And we're thrilled to be able to reproduce this, and as asked by the zoning committee. So that's part of this request. And then if we go back to the front imagery of the property, can we go back to BZA 3? Is it 3? Yes.
Yeah, BZA 3, please.
There's a small wall that encapsulates the motor court to the left of the property that replicates another small detail on that. It's a brick wall, and it's 9 inches above your requirement of 3 feet. Then there's 2 retaining walls that are part of the landscape imagery on the right side of this building that are necessary to accommodate the grades there. The first one right there is 3 feet in height. at 3 feet, I think 6 inches. And then it evolves into a series of turf steps. And then because if you will, Lyle, if you'll, there's an enormous beech tree that the pool was predicated on moving away from, that it required us to have a retaining wall at the end of the pool that elliptical apse there is starts out at on the left side at 3 feet, and then it rises to 4.5 feet, and then it descends again in that linear pattern to a little bit less than 2 feet in height, about 18 inches. So that's one of our requests for variance, and that's very specific to the mechanics of that magnificent beech tree. This property, as you all know, as having seen it many times, has breathtakingly beautiful trees on it. So we're very hyper conscious of articulating almost everything on this site. The driveway, actually, the new driveway actually is less impactful than the existing driveway that's there. We are under the square footage of the driveway that's there now with this new driveway. And it's pretty much predicated on being very careful around those two magnificent oak trees that are in the front yard. So we were excited that we could be under all your requirements on that. So in essence, what we're after is replacing that house with a spectacularly beautiful house that architecture firm from New York, Gil Schaefer's office, has designed for this property. So we're excited to be part of this project. If there's anything else that you'd like to know about this, we'd be more than happy to share any thoughts on this.
Mr. Chairman, this is Lyle. I'd like to say that this came before the Historic Zoning Committee, and they approved this demolition and new architecture.
Yeah. What did they approve, Lyle?
They approved the demolition for this home and the architecture.
Mr. Page or anyone on your behalf want to speak for the owner at this time?
Well, if there's anything that you all have in the way of questions, we're certainly excited to answer. But I think this is going to be a hugely handsome addition to the streetscape on this street. And again, we're very excited to be part of this project.
Does anybody have any board members have any questions of the presenter?
I'll ask a question. Or a couple.
Gloria?
Yeah, I mean, it mostly has to do with the heights of the gates, and I understand why you want to replicate the beautiful gate that is on the left side of the home at the moment. That's gorgeous, but is there a way to lower either lower the arch and then lower the walls to 6 foot walls, 6 foot total, including any caps, and also the motor court back down to the 3. I mean, we've really had a lot of issues with walls, and this would, in order to stay within our code, if there is a way to make it structurally as beautiful, then is there any way you can bring them down?
Well, we looked at that pretty vigorously, and honestly, what we were trying to do is...
Excuse me, identify yourself.
I'm sorry, Ben Page, landscape architect. And we did look at that, and honestly, if we bring the spring point of the arch down any lower, the arch itself gets to be extremely low. And see the 6 foot tall man next to the gate? if you bring the spring point of the arch, and I know this is exactly why they did what they did when they produced the original one, is you start out with the spring point, and if it gets too low, you'll actually hit your head going through this gate. So it's just about, well, it's a 1 foot differential from your normal 6 foot wall.
I thought it was 9 feet. Well, that's
Yeah,
9
9 feet.
feet, but you want the rest of the walls to be 7, and that's, yeah,
Right.
that's the, I mean, if there was a way to bring the other walls back down to 6.
Well, the reason why too for the 7 foot walls around the equipment areas is that there's going to be a proposed generator.
Identify
I'm sorry.
yourself, please.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
I'm sorry. I'm Ed Tester with Page Duke. The reason why we're kind of pulling that wall over through there for the equipment area to be 7 feet is that a generator is going to be probably living in there, and with the CT switches and the control panels, they're tall, so usually they'll be sticking up above a 6 foot wall. And so we need the extra height to be able to hide all that equipment from those transfer switch and those control panels for that generator. And that's where the generator and the pool equipment will be housed.
I'm going to show on the site plan in relation to where this is.
Yeah, it's behind the garage.
Can you put your cursor?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes, this is Ben Page. It's right there. It really is pretty much almost invisible from anywhere from the streetscape or even from the front corner of the house. I mean, again, we were excited that everybody wanted to reproduce that beautiful detail, and I'm hesitant to say to you that we could lower it without running into bumping somebody's head.
Well, I'm not talking about the arch so much as the walls.
You all identify yourself, please.
Oh, it's Gloria. Is the walls connecting to that, and also the front wall, and getting the front wall back down to 3.
Maybe we can get the front wall through.
Well, I'm sorry. This is Ben Page. When you said the front wall, which wall?
The one, the motor court.
Well, that wall is only 3 feet tall.
Oh, you said 3. I thought you said 3'6".
3'9".
3'9". You said 3'9".
Right. Yeah.
So
I'm sorry, this is that tester again. That's kind of I mean, if we needed to, we could probably do some things with some grading there. We're just trying to kind of work with some of the grades as it moves towards the side property line as well as that post oak. And so it was just a matter of not trying to, I mean, if we needed to, because when they get closer to the house and the walls get real short, so we're trying to do that balancing act, because we start at 30 inches at the house, and then as we project across there, moving it down through with just how the grade starts to descend, that's where the 9 inches kind of grows. So, I mean, if we had to, I guess we could bring a little bit more fill in to kind of bring it up, or I was just afraid if we lower it even more so, then it's going to get real squatty at the house.
So I have a question when you're ready.
Go right ahead, Pete.
Just as far as the wall, are you, best I remember, I went back there and looked, that 7 foot wall does run down the side of the backyard. Is that correct?
Yes.
And are you going to remove any of that?
I'm sorry, this is Ben Page. Remove
any of that 7 foot wall that runs down the side of the backyard?
The current wall, the serpentine wall?
Yes.
That serpentine wall is going to be removed, yes. It's unstable and a significant part of it.
Okay. All right. And then off the walls, so this, what, as far as the house, the whole house is going to be demoed?
Correct.
some of the wall up. Is that correct?
That is correct. We're going to be this is Ed Tesser again. We're going to be demoing the whole house and then salvaging the brick off of the house to reuse on the new project.
Okay. I'm not sure. I see a compelling reason why the structure has to be in front of that footprint by 8 feet. It seems to me that you're stretching it forward for just to give you more space between the house and the pool. What's the purpose of having it over in front of that setback line by, I think you said 8 feet? I know where it is now, and I understood that, but if you're tearing it down and you're starting from scratch, it seems to me you ought to be able to build within the building envelope.
Well, one of the reasons why we were really focused on that was just trying to give actually more breathing room towards that big oak tree in the back of the yard, that 36-inch oak.
Ben Page talking again, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, this is Ed Tesser with Page Duke. To kind of give us some more space between the large oak tree that's in the rear yard. And yes, to kind of give a little bit of some breathing room between kind of where the garage structure is going to be and kind of where the pool's going to be. And I think we were just trying to also keep in the same kind of character. Like I said, you know, the neighbors, the two neighbors to the left of the house are 86 feet and 75 feet, respectively, with their setback. Obviously, you know, when you start doing the averages, you average in Dr. Eskin's house. I mean, he's almost double the feet back from the setback, so it kind of skews everything. So we're just trying to keep things within the same kind of rhythm that you have there. And then obviously, too, giving us some more breathing room with those trees that are in the back of the property.
Okay, 2 questions. One, Doug, do we have authority to approve a brand new house on a non-variance lot outside the building envelope?
As I read the spec, it's actually, Pete, I was just looking at that, great minds think alike. I was looking at the one of the provisions in our special exception provisions of our ordinance that says the construction of, and it says an addition, but it also says a new residential structure not otherwise permitted by this chapter may be allowed as a special exception so long as it doesn't aggravate the existing setback, doesn't extend closer to the property line or otherwise expand by reason of construction. I guess I go back to this, generally speaking, does not aggravate the violation that already existed. That's the way I read it. So even if we've not had the variance, this is not a variance lot. It's just
right. Right.
For anything, this one be tough. But as I read it, and I'll let Lyle chime in. He's administered this longer than I have, but I would think as long as you're rebuilding, you're not making it worse. That's the way we interpret that. Is that right, Lyle?
I will say that when this first came to me, this home was 19 feet plus 19 feet 9 inches closer to the street than this proposed structure. This is definitely improvement as far as the setback on the street.
Yeah. So I think that's where it falls, Pete.
Well, it may be an improvement, but is it, I guess, is it necessary? Is there a compelling reason to put it, you know, in front of the building envelope? And I don't know that I've ever been asked to approve a new home outside of the building envelope. I remember one house that came before us on Chickering that they were about 3 feet in front, and they agreed to move it back 3 feet. But I don't know that I've ever been involved in an approval of a new house built outside the building envelope. You know,
yeah,
we have existing setbacks and outside of the building envelope, but you're tearing this down. You're not dealing with existing setbacks. So that rule doesn't apply. And I think that's what you were reading about, Doug.
No, I don't know, Lyle. I don't have the ordinance. I've got the ordinance in my lap, but I can read the whole thing. It seems to me that it says, this is under, gosh, there's so many subparts to these ordinances. It's on page 14-36. The construction of an addition to an existing residential structure, which this is not, or the replacement of an existing residential structure with new residential structure, not otherwise permitted by this chapter, or eligible for consideration by the board, may be permitted as the board. I mean, it goes back to the special exception provision. The Board of Zoning Appeals may approve a special exception for a new residential structure. It's a replacement of an existing residential structure, so long as it gets into the volume, which I think is another issue on this case. And it says any pre-existing non-conforming use or structure shall not be extended closer to the property line or otherwise expanded by reason of construction of such addition or new structure unless the owner establishes to the satisfaction of the board there exists. And this is where you get to your point, good cause for the expansion, and that's where you dispute that that's the case. And it also has to be the proposed addition will not be out of harmony with the existing development in the neighborhood. The granting of a special exception will not adversely impact abutting properties. The physical characteristics are architecturally compatible, and I think that's largely been, that jurisdiction has largely been assigned to the Historic Zoning Commission now. And the addition will be constructed under conditions and safeguards as the board may direct. So I think this does come within your existing authority under the special exceptions, Pete. As you know, I've not been a big fan of that, but it's still part of our ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, this is Lyle. I'd like to read from the definition section, if I would. Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, oh, sorry. Yes, go right ahead.
All right, this is under definitions. C, building envelope, the area on a lot available for the construction of a dwelling or other accessory buildings incidental to the same, enclosed by the front setback line, the rear setback line, and the two side setback lines. Then I turn the page over to parentheses W, setback line. A setback line is a line within a lot or site generally parallel to the front, rear, or side lot line between which is such front, rear, or side lot line as the case may be. No building structures or portions thereof may be constructed except as is otherwise herein provided.
That's why it's before you, I guess, is the short answer.
So we do have authority.
In my opinion, you have authority.
Okay. All right. Lyle, one thing that Ed pointed out, Tesler pointed out, is that there's one house on that street that skews the average setback. Can you speak to that?
Ed, do we have that in a site plan?
Let's see here. You scroll up. It's, yes, next door. So it's the Dr. Eskin's house right there, which is next door to our property. Ed Tesler. So if you look down below, you can.
It's the one on the bottom, isn't it?
Right there.
It's that one, yes, the one on the bottom. That's the Dr. Eskin's property, which is the 130-foot front dimension to the property line. So you can see where, you know, that house is probably out of compliance anyway, because if you start, their lot's about the same size as the Cochran's, and you start extrapolating the rear setbacks and stuff, the house starts to kind of encroach on the rear setbacks. And so, like I said, when you start looking at the other two houses up the street, you know, they're 86, 75 feet respectively. The existing house was 74. Dr. Eskin's house is at 130, and then we're proposing a 94 for our front setback versus the 102 when you do the math and you start doing the averages.
Ed, this is Lyle. How many homes did you use for the average? Did you go block to block or 1,000 feet?
Yeah, I did block to block because they're even longer. If you start going south on Ellendale, I think even the one next door to Dr. Eskins is like 122 feet from the front setback. So that's what it starts to, like when you're going towards not Sunnyside, but Malone, you're all in the 80s and whatnot. When you start going back towards, the south, that's when they start getting longer in the 100s to the 130s. And that's when we ended up with the average of the 102.
Do we have those measurements, or are we just showing these 5 homes that I see?
I'm just showing these 5 homes, but I can go back and pull them off the Metro GIS parcel viewers.
I just wanted to know how you came up with your average.
I did what's in the book.
All right.
Is there anybody else on your behalf that needs to would like to say anything or make a presentation? If not, I'm going to close the public portion.
I want to see if someone wants to be heard, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry?
I want to say, weren't there some folks here who wanted to be heard on this? Excuse me, I can't see.
I'm not
everybody.
understanding what you're saying.
Public comment.
Neighbors, weren't there some neighbors who wanted to be
Oh,
heard on?
neighbors. I don't, that's what I'm asking for. Is anybody else
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
public that wants to be heard?
Okay, all mics are unmuted for public comment.
Just hold on, please. They can't hear you.
Okay.
Now, unmute.
If you're going to talk, would you please identify yourself?
Can you hear Marianne and Bill Blofus?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. The
You talk.
we live at 409 Sunnyside Drive, the lot that's immediately behind the Cochran's or the 414 Ellendale. We have lived here 40 years. Our lot originally belonged to part of the 414 Ellendale property. Approximately 50 years ago, it was split off. The wall was built between the two properties, and our home is behind 414 Ellendale. We have first, we understand why the house has to be demolished, and we have reviewed the plans of the new home that the Cochrans are proposing to build, and are very impressed with it and will be delighted to have them as neighbors. We have 2 primary questions. One is how will the wall between the 2 properties be adjusted to 6 feet? The wall.
Well, what we're basically going to have, sorry, this is Ed Tesser with Page Duke. What I'm actually going to probably, and I was talking to Lyle about this earlier, is obviously we need to have a 6-foot dimension from the outside to the property. And so we're probably going to have to do some kind of wrought iron detail on top of the existing brick wall. Yeah, in order to make it compliant. And so one thing I was going to do is kind of walk up on our side and take some measurements from your side to see kind of where the low spots are. As you move north along the property, that wall is going to be 6 feet. It's really towards the south side where the grade rises up on our side, and I just wasn't sure if it is retaining on the Blofus side of the property. But we're basically going to have to put some kind of iron detail on top of it to make it comply with the 6-foot height, for the pool enclosure. But that wall is going to remain. There's no intention to tear that wall down. We want to use it and just build upon it to make the pool enclosure.
That's very good, and we understand that some type of wrought iron or iron fixture would be attached to the top of it to make it 6 feet. That's
Mhm.
fine. We have a question. When the wall was built, it was on the McDonald property. There was a fire pit or a fire fixture that was where the wall fits perpendicular into the fire fixture. And in the BZA 2, it shows the fireplace structure along with the curved wall that was mentioned earlier, the serpentine wall. And then, but in subsequent slides on BZA 3, there you can see on that picture, you can see that fixture, and the curved wall is on to the left of it. On our side of the here, along on our side, the wall continues. Well, it continues into the fireplace, which is inoperable, but the curved wall continues on our side of the property. And the question we have is the fire fixture going to be retained? Because you can't tear down half of it, as the drawings show, without tearing down it on our side of the property.
This is Ben Page, and we absolutely intend to leave that corner totally intact because we knew that it would be a very complex thing to remove half of that. And then, so yes, absolutely, that will be a feature in the future.
Okay. Well, you can come over and replace our curved wall too.
Well,
no, but
our side.
No, the fireplace fixture, that makes sense just to take down the Cochrane side of the curved wall up to where the fire fixture is. So our two primary questions is that the wrought iron is going to be, or some type of iron fixture or thing is going to be put on the back wall in order to take care of the 6-foot issue, and that the fire fixture is going to stay. Another neighbor question is the power line going to be buried?
Yes, this is Ben Page. One of the principal goals of the backyard, because of the complexity of those giant trees in the backyard, our first goal is to put all of that power line underground, so there's no longer any necessity to have anything pruned in the backyard. I know you've probably noticed there have been some really unfortunate pruning by the electric company back there, and we really are anxious to make sure that doesn't happen again. So I very much intend to make sure that underground electric is one of our first goals.
And basically, the trees that are going to be removed are the current pine trees.
Exactly.
Which we're in agreement with. Anyway, so that's very good. Will any blasting be required in order to facilitate the basement, the pool, or anything? Is there any limestone underneath the dirt?
I don't know. We have not done any, I'm sorry, this is Ben Page again. We have not done any investigation at this moment, but certainly the minute we are approved to do this, we'll do some investigating.
We can show you or not.
Well, we can show you where the limestone is on our side, and I'm sure it doesn't stop at the brick wall. So that's just an issue that will have to be dealt with, and hopefully without any damage to any of the neighbors. What is the timetable for the demolition of the current house?
This is Ed Tester speaking. I believe we had just gotten our demo permit today, and so I'd have to check with the contractor to see what the time frame is. I mean, the first thing we have to do is we have to set up all of the chain link tree protection and the silt fencing before anything can happen. And then really the first part's going to be is there's going to be a company there that's going to be basically salvaging the brick off of the house, and so that will take some time. But I can find out what that timetable is. But we literally just got the permit in hand today.
No, it's just curiosity on our part.
Yeah.
Okay, wind it up.
Thank you for the information.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else in the public? This is Joe again. Anybody else in the public have any questions or comments?
Hey, Joe, this is Don Cochran. Can I speak to the setback issue real quickly?
Yes.
So I'm the homeowner and look forward to moving in there in Belmead and Ellendale. So as I understand it, and Lyle can correct me if I'm wrong, the setback becomes a function of averaging. And the Eskin house on our right, Dr. Eskin's house, is a bit of an outlier in that sense, and why it gives us a setback that's considerably further back than the houses on the left as you face the front of our house. The reams and the houses as you continue on in that direction are much more consistent with the distance that we're proposing to place our house. Also, if you look at the front of that house, I think probably about 4 or 5 of that 8 feet is some really nice dormer windows that protrude out a little bit beyond the front of the house and give it the really pretty appearance up there. So I guess my point would be, if we were to move as far back as the Eskins, first of all, we would come back closer to our new rear neighbors, the Blaufus's, and also those gorgeous trees back there in the back that Ben was talking about. So I guess my point would be, I think it seems like, I know we have a front setback that's been moved back somewhat artificially by Dr. Eskin's house, but I think more consistent with the character and a good use of that lot is probably slightly forward. We're talking about 8 feet. So I guess that would be my point on the setback. And then I think the other point I would make, I think you've got a letter from Dr. Eskin, who is very much in support of the house and the, he's seen the design, he speaks highly of it, and despite the fact that his house is further back, he's very supportive of the placement and the planning for our house. So that's my comment.
Lyle, let's go again for the record. Do we have such a letter that Mr. Cochran referred to?
If we do, it came in after the cutoff, and I usually don't put those. There's a cutoff for a reason.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Does anybody else from on behalf of Mr. Cochran want to make any comments, or anybody in the public?
This is, excuse me, this is Christopher Moran from GP Schaefer Architect. I'm the project manager for the Cochrans on the project. And I just wanted to, add to Don's comments that because of the setback of the Askins, which is at 136 feet, if you look, their pool is actually beyond where, a setback for a pool would be. And so it's almost a non-conformance of a non-conformance. And I just wanted to point that out, that pool is actually pushed back further than anyone else's in the yard. And that's what has allowed them to push their house back further. So if you were to, guide that in a way and figure out where the actual pool in the house were, it'd probably be, the house itself would be pushed forward. So just want to put that out there for the record as well. I can point that out, Lyle, if you'd like to bring up on the screen the first drawing.
Keep going.
How
strong are we looking for?
It's the first drawing in the set.
BZA 1.
BZA 1 right here.
Can you share your screen?
Yep. Here we go.
And just zoom out a little bit so you can see the property just below the 414. So if you can, you see how close the pool is to the property, the back property line. you see where our proposed pool is, and there, that's going to be another 20 feet or so, I would say. So that's already a nonconformance that's pushed, this house is pushed back further as well as the pool. So that, I would say that property itself is pushing us back that extra, that difference of that, these 8 feet that we're looking for. And we're still within the whole street. We're still back farther than most of those other properties. And it's because of this house that has a pool and a nonconformance.
Does anybody else in the public or anyone else on behalf of Mr. Cochran want to say anything? And if not, I'll close off the public portion right now. Okay, members of the board, what are your thoughts?
I'm happy to speak. This is Gloria. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about setbacks in, relative to the street, but in terms of a new build, and maybe Doug can address it again. But in terms of a new build and the positioning of a pool and the heights of the walls, in a new build, you would think that you would work within the code. The code has been put there for a reason. A lot of these homes have been there for a long time. And before some of these codes have been put into place. And my concern is that because it's a new build, that the code should have been followed.
Well, it gets back, if it's a question to me, Doug Berry, city attorney, all I can say is that under your current ordinance, which allows for this board to grant special exceptions under the conditions I read 20, 30 minutes ago, you may do that. You may not want to do that for the reasons you stated. So it's up to the board.
What you're saying is, Doug, this is Joe, we have the authority, it's within our discretion to approve it based upon the ordinance.
That is correct. But there's a set of criteria you're supposed to consider. If they establish a necessity for it, is it no worse than encroachment into the set building envelope, outside of the building envelope or outside of the setbacks than the existing house was? Can it be done, in harmony with the neighborhood and so forth and so on? So I'm not going to reread all of those, but I think that's something this board does every month, is considers and grants special exceptions for both additions and completely new construction. So it might not be wise policy. I think we can debate about that, but that's something you've got the authority to do.
Anybody else have any comments?
Lyle, do you agree that
Pete Sabasky?
I'm sorry, Pete Sabasky. Lyle, do you agree that the street is skewed by that one house? Other houses would still be in front of this house with that one exception?
It is definitely skewed by the house to the right as you face this house, yes.
But this house won't be more in front of the other houses on that street?
I couldn't speak to that directly, Pete. I don't have the averages in front of me, but we are looking at a 19-foot 9-inch improvement. It's further back than the two houses immediately to the left and pretty close to the two houses to the right.
If there were no other houses on this street, then you'd go back 75 feet, and that would determine the building envelope, right?
That is correct.
So, but what happens in this case, because there are other houses on the street, it squishes the lot from front to back, so you really have a smaller building envelope than you would otherwise have.
That's correct.
And their compelling reason an argument is that the houses are skewed, and their house is still, even with the additional 8 feet, still further back than the other houses on the street.
Yes, I actually recall a home next door to Gloria where the building envelope was pushed forward to allow a bigger envelope.
Mm. Okay. All right. You know, Doug, I guess this is for you. I don't know that we had any discussion on the swimming pool and the pool cabana. Non-conforming structures off the table at this point. So, you want to just have a discussion about that, or you want to have a presentation on that?
You're directing your comment to
you. There's no. We haven't had any discussion on the swimming pools with the architect or project manager and landscape guys. Should we? Is there just want comments on it from us without their presenting it?
Well, I think we certainly have the right to ask questions of them. I think that's something we ought to do. That they didn't make any comment about it one way or another. It is before us, so we should look at it and see if we have any comments or questions.
Okay, the only question I have is I didn't see the pool equipment. Is it inside the building envelope?
Can you show us that? This is Joe again.
It's right here.
Wow.
Right where I'm sorry, I'm not sharing a screen. It is right here where the mouse is. Everybody see that?
Yes.
In that yellow enclosure?
Yes.
So, okay. All right. Seem to recall that now. Okay, Joe, I do have one other question that was brought up by, I think, when the Blofis spoke, and that I'd like to have the landscape architect answer, and that's about the wall in the back and the wrought iron fence on top of it. So can we open that up for that question?
Certainly.
It came after their presentation, and it came when the
mics are
Blofis
open.
Great thing about living on the golf course.
Ed Tessier, you want to address that?
This is Ben Page, and our intention is to fully bring that into compliance. There's a section of the wall that dips down, and most of the wall is 6 feet, but absolutely the intention would be all portions of that wall will be 6 feet with an addition of a wrought iron cap on top of that wall. We do not intend to alter in any way the character of the brick wall. That's a big deal for everybody.
Okay, I asked earlier, maybe didn't ask. I asked if that wall that runs down that brick wall, 7 foot tall brick wall running down the left side of the property was going to be removed, and I think I was told yes because it was unstable. Is that right?
I'm sorry. Yes, this is Ben Page again. That is totally the intent, and it'll be replaced with a 6 foot high wrought iron fence.
Okay, not a 6 foot fence on top of a brick wall.
No, sir. No. Absolutely not. No.
Okay. I'm talking about a low wall. And the back between this house, the Cochran's house, and the Blofis' house, that is also going to be a 6 foot high wrought iron fence.
That will be a 5.5, almost 6 foot brick wall, but with a wrought iron band on top of it to bring it into compliance.
What?
Our intention is not. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure I understand that. Right now, is that wall 7 feet tall?
No.
Okay.
The
All
fence. I'm sorry. The wall between the Blofis and the Cochran property is a brick wall, but in portions of it, it does not meet the 6 foot height requirement.
Okay. So only the portions that don't meet the 6 foot, you're going to put wrought iron on it, and the rest of it's going to be brick?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. The portions that do not meet, how tall are those portions?
Well, Right now, they're average between 5 foot something, 5'4". They're almost 6.
Okay, well, the concern is that, you know, when you have sometimes you have 3-foot wall. I think the application before this one had a 3-foot wall with a 3-foot wrought iron on top of it, and kids can step on the wall and go over the fence. So you're going to have about almost a 6-foot wall, and where it doesn't quite reach 6 feet, you're putting a little bit of wrought iron to.
Yes. Yes, sir. That would be correct. This is Ben Page again.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Joe.
Peter, I wouldn't let that happen when I go out to do inspections. I would not let that happen.
Right.
Anybody else have any more questions regarding the pool, the equipment, or the walls that Pete was discussing? So we've discussed the footprint, the walls, the 2 walls in the pool cabana. What about the pool cabana? Where is it? Can you show us that?
That would be right here. Everybody see the blue circle?
Yes. Okay. Anybody else? Any other comments or questions from the board?
Can
If
we-
not, go right ahead.
It's Gloria. Can we just go back to the retaining walls and the motor court wall and the 7-foot wall? Can you just point out?
Okay, here
Can we
is
just
the
walk?
front motor court wall. I'm gonna zoom in on it. It is 3 feet 9 inches with the columns at 4 feet. Ed Tessier mentioned he would raise the grade on that left side to bring it up to 3 feet.
So that the wall would only be 3 feet. Is that right?
Yes.
That's what he said, yes.
Okay.
Here is the rear wall elevation. It's 6 feet, column height 610. You'll notice where the mouse is. That's the gate. That's a side view of it.
And there's no way to get that back down. There's no way to.
Are you speaking
I'm
to
sorry.
the gate?
Yeah. No, the wall.
She's talking about the 7-foot portion, 7-foot.
7.10 inch.
I'm sorry, could I say something?
Well, just a minute. Gloria is talking right now.
All right, there's the 7-foot wall with the arch. Now that is a view looking from the accessory structure back to the pool cabana.
So the whole wall is not 7 feet. It's just this section. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly right. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, that's better. But it's still.
It's only the section that entails trying to replicate that historic detail.
Okay.
That's the only section right there.
This is behind the house. This will not be seen from the street, only from the accessory structure, garage, motor court.
Right. Okay.
Since it's open, let me ask one other question. Why was that accessory structure taken off the agenda?
Pete, if you don't mind, I'll speak to you after the meeting about that. I have some thoughts on that.
Okay.
Any other board members have any questions or comments? If not, is there a motion?
You want to break them up, Joe, or you want one for the whole?
Well, it depends on your motion. If you have a motion as to specific items, you can address that. Or if you've got a motion as to the whole request, you can do that as well.
Well, it's Gloria. I think because since we have at least a change in the front gate, in the front down to 3 feet, we need to split them up.
Okay. You want to make a motion? Or anybody else?
Well,
I'll make a
I'll
motion.
make a motion that the wall, to approve the wall in the front.
Can we start A through E?
Let's
Okay,
do that.
go ahead.
Let's start with A. If you want to
Roll
combine.
call, starting with A.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve A and B as submitted.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Gloria, aye.
Aye.
Haley? Is Haley here? Haley's kids may have kidnapped her, I think.
Well, I'm an aye.
Okay, I'm an aye as well. That's 3.
All right, that's a quorum.
Okay. Now, is there a motion regarding the wall, number C, which is the wall in front, which is a 3'9" wall?
Yeah, it would be, changed to a 3-foot wall.
So your motion is to require them to change it to 3 feet by changing the grading.
Correct.
Is there a second?
3 feet.
If there's not a second, the motion is going to fail. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve C and D as submitted.
Is there a second? Well, I'll second it.
Okay.
All in favor? Pete?
Aye. Aye.
I'm in favor. Gloria?
Aye.
Okay, it will pass 3-0. All right, now the footprint is E. Is there a motion regarding the footprint issue, E?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve E as submitted.
Is there a second?
Yeah, this isn't fair, but I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Pete, are you in favor?
Aye.
Gloria?
Aye.
And I vote yes. Okay, everything passes as presented, except for the non-conforming structure, which is a garage, which has been deferred. All right?
All right, those mics are off. Moving on to the next business. Number 2, under new business, the application of Matt Perkins, 414 Linwood Boulevard, for conditional use permitting construction of a pool and a pool pavilion, a special exception for grade change, and a variance for wall over allowed height. Building permit has been denied for the following reasons. Swimming pool BZA approval. Pool pavilion requires BZA approval. Grade change inside the 20-foot buffer that runs around the property is over the allowed amount by 21 inches. Grade change outside the building envelope is over allowed amount by 18 inches. Grade change inside building envelope is over allowed amount by 24 inches. Terrace wall is over height. And Mr. Chairman, and those representing, your mics are now open.
Okay. Is anybody here speaking on behalf of Mr. Perkins?
Gavin Duke, landscape architect, be speaking to the project.
Okay, go right ahead.
Lyle, I guess we would need the drawings on the screen.
Okay.
This lot is rather challenging in the fact that it's a narrower lot and it does have a lot of grade change that descends to the back. We are well within the building envelope for the setbacks, but you can see how the contours drop off as it goes to the rear of the lot. We have nearly 5, 10, 15 feet for that back area. So if we can go to the proposed pool plan, you can see what we would like to do is to have the pool and there's a cabana. Everything is within the building envelope, and the pool equipment is underneath the cabana that's on that sort of back section of the pool. The grade change, I think there's a diagram in there, Lyle, that shows the grade change. And Mamie, I think Mamie Koska is on here, or Mamie Finch, sorry, is on here for our firm to talk about the grade differences as well.
Yes, this is Mamie Finch with Paige Duke. The main grade change issue that we had in the front was trying to get some additional parking in that circular drive. Our numbers are well within the allowable for a front driveway and for the overall driveway, but to get in and out of the garage area and to have some parking, we're retaining a little bit of grade on either side of the property. And so we're exceeding the 24-inch grade change allowable with some low retaining walls. Our retaining walls will not exceed the 30 inches or 36 inches, excuse me, on those two parking areas, but we do move more dirt than 24 inches in the purple areas of that zone. It's about I think it says it's less than 4% of the whole lot, so it's not a substantial amount, but it is more than the 24 inches.
Yes, and those walls, Gabe and Duke, those walls are under 3 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the back, we have a lot of grade change, which incurred some retaining walls to hold the pool up. I don't know if you want to go back to that area, Lyle.
I'm sorry, Gavin, I was handling that. Would you tell me that again?
In the back by the pool, the grade change for the back area.
Yes.
You can see that we're trying to keep our grades sort of less or more than 3 to 1 or less than 3 to 1. And then we've got, minimal deck area and pool. We do have a pool enclosure that this wall is, I believe it should be right at 6 feet. So we have that covered with the wall that is retaining. And then we come over to the section by the pool pavilion, and there will be a fence and gate at the bottom of the steps so that is a pool enclosure for the whole pool area. And again, the pool equipment is up under the pool cabana.
This one is directly across from Gavin's house.
And then we may want to go back to the landscape plan. Lyle, Gavin, Duke again.
All right, just a second. I'm muting a couple people. I hear some background noise. Landscape plan, Gavin?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right.
And Gavin, Duke here. We're trying to keep the neighbors with a evergreen screening on that sort of south side of the property line. And I don't know if on the north we had some planting as well, I believe. No, we will have. So I believe that addresses most of the issues that we had was the grade change, the pool, and the accessory structure.
This is Joe Dugman. Explain exactly why you need a grade change. I'm not sure I understood it.
This is Mamie with Paige Duke. Are you talking about the grade change in the front, over the allowable grade change?
Yes.
The front two areas within 20 feet of the property line, there's a 24-inch maximum grade change allowable. And pretty much across our whole site, we've got a consistent slope. And so to get a parking pad, to get in and out of that garage, we need some reverse room to move a car, and to level that pad out to where we don't have a significant slope from side to side. We're trying to level that area out, and it exceeds the 24 inches.
By how much?
21 inches.
21
inches above. So we've got 45 inches total. They're 21 inches above the allowable of 24 on a buffer that runs around the property 20 feet.
And that's necessary to level the driveway? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and they have a retaining wall, and I'll circle that. have a retaining wall here to retain that earth. 21 inches plus 24, 45 inches.
The retaining wall is 45 inches.
Oh, I thought
Now, the
she
retaining wall is going to be probably 36.
36 inches.
Okay.
She said.
Okay.
And Gavin Duke here, and to add to that, Lyle, we should be 5 feet off of the property line to stay within our code requirements.
That is correct.
And can I ask a question?
Certainly, Gloria.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
And the rear elevation, can we look at the rear elevation? Where it drops off like 15. Well, the rear, I'm sorry. This wall here, this is the pool, right?
This is the rear.
Correct.
Here.
And I know there's some grading here as well. And what is the height of this wall?
Gavin Duke, that wall should be 6 feet. We try to keep that at 6 feet.
With the metal on top?
Well, it's 6 foot of wall, and then we have the iron on top of that.
So 6 more feet on top?
No, it would be 3 feet of railing.
That's a barrier for a raised terrace, anything over 30 inches.
Okay, and you want to talk about all this grading here? Because it drops off quite a bit, 15.
They actually have a legend right here.
Yes.
So as you can see inside the building envelope, they are over 40 is their maximum allowable. Is that correct, Gavin?
Mamie, you may have to speak to that.
This is Mamie. Yes, the gold color is it's outside the building envelope, but inside the 20-foot buffer. I think I've got that all worked out. So that's the amount that we are exceeding that allowable. And then the blue color is we're over the percentage, or we're over the height of grading within the building envelope.
And
those are the two variables.
For how much they're over.
And this is Gloria. And stormwater plan?
This is Gavin Duke. We will have that. We've got a proposal, and that'll be part of the permitting process.
Gavin, I'm going to correct you. This is Mamie. The stormwater has already been done on this project. It has been done, but we were not a part of that process. But this grading plan aligns with the stormwater plan that was submitted and approved.
This is a severely sloped lot from front to back, and it poses a real challenge, not only to build a house, but to put this out there and try to do your best to meet the wall requirements as well as the grading. And personally, I think they've done a good job. As she just said, as Mamie just said, this has gone through stormwater, and any sort of drainage issues whatsoever will be addressed by our city engineer, Steve Casey.
Evan, you did say those front parking pads, both of them on both sides of the house, they are 5 feet from the property line, both of them.
This is Gavin Duke. Yes, the parking pads are, and the driveway.
So the pad, there is 5 feet between the end of the pad and the neighbor's yard.
I believe that's correct. I don't have a scale there, but that should be correct. We will be 5 feet off.
Okay.
You're 5 feet off on the south side, but not on the north side, so that'll be corrected.
Okay.
Gavin, you or any of your staff members or the owner have any further comments? If not,
I do not.
Okay. If not, I'm going to close the public portion off and have the board, the three of us that are left and have not been kidnapped by children, to to discuss this further. Anybody have any comments, questions among ourselves?
No, I think it's a good conditional use, special exception, and variance. They all were needed, and they decided. I'd vote if you're ready for a motion.
I'm ready for a motion. It's 7 o'clock.
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
This is Gloria.
Aye.
Pete, aye. Gloria, aye.
Aye.
And third will be me, so I'm aye, and I'm ready for a glass of wine.
Oh, there.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Before we adjourn, Lyle, are there any, Edie, do we have any minutes to approve?
Mike is off. If you'll give me just a minute, maybe she'll come in here and let you know.
I don't remember receiving any. Does anybody remember getting any minutes?
No, I don't think so.
Gee, I don't remember either. We missed last month, so we didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've approved.
I think we did get minutes for February, but I don't remember.
The minutes are from February because we did not have a meeting in March.
Right.
Yes. So does anybody shall we read the February minutes quickly, or you just?
We can defer it till next month. And
if nobody has them, I have them, but I don't want to be the only one that have read them and approve it. So if nobody has read them, then is there a motion to defer the approval of the February minutes until next month?
Yeah, there's a motion. I might make a motion to defer the minutes.
Second, Gloria. I would approve as well as 3 in favor. Hey, is there a motion to
let me ask one other question. Lau, you want to confirm what the last minutes were? Because did we approve January's? I don't remember that. And you confirm with Edie that we only have February's to.
Edie, could you come in here, please? She's going to grab the file. While she's doing that, Pete, if you don't mind, I'm going to address the tabling the accessory structure on that 414 Ellendale. Currently, we have can't change its use for the accessory structure or put more money than 50% in it.
Right.
And as I mentioned during the BZA year in review, I had a epiphany, if you will, to confront or go before the commissioners and ask them if we can't change that and let people spend whatever they want on these structures and change their use. A lot of them are garages, or maybe they're workout studios and they want it to be a garage. They currently can't do that. I think the reason why that ordinance was put into place is because back in '87, people were renting these out. And now that we have a short-term rental ordinance, they can't do that anymore. So I'm going to approach them with the idea of let's let people put as much money into these accessory structures as they want. So this was on the table tonight on the agenda, and I asked them to just table it. I had anticipated going before the commissioners with this before this meeting, before the pandemic. Obviously, I haven't been able to do that. This is something I feel like I need to do in person with the commissioners and not on Zoom. So as long as we're meeting on Zoom, I personally am going to table that discussion. I feel like it's something I need to show them a PowerPoint and be in person with them. So that's why I asked them to table that one thing.
That'd probably be a tough sell to the commissioners.
I don't know. All right.
It only are our property taxes.
They've always had a bad taste in their mouth for, accessory structures like that, detached garages. But that's between.
And then motion to approve, yeah.
Okay, January was approved. We're waiting on February.
And I'll email February back out.
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
She's going to email the February minutes back out, okay?
Okay, I second it.
All in favor? Aye. All 3 of us? Aye. Okay, everybody stay safe and be careful, okay?
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Bye.